Today, we're going to explore the complex and often controversial lives of some of history's most celebrated figures. While these individuals are widely admired for their achievements, they also had personal flaws and made questionable decisions that are often overlooked. Let's dive in and examine the multifaceted nature of these iconic personalities. Before we jump in, here's a mind-blowing fact. Did you know that 73% of people idolize historical figures without knowing their full stories? Well, prepare to have your perceptions shattered. Let's kick things off with a name that's synonymous with peace and nonviolence: Mahatma Gandhi. Now, we all know Gandhi as the father of Indian independence, the man who brought the British Empire to its knees through peaceful protest. But hold on to your dotas, folks, because Gandhi's personal life was more complicated than a Bollywood plot twist. First up, let's talk about his unconventional sleeping arrangements. Gandhi conducted what he called chastity tests, where he would sleep naked with young women, including his grannies, to prove he could resist temptation. I don't know about you, but that sounds less like a spiritual exercise and more like a lawsuit waiting to happen. But wait, there's more. When Gandhi's wife, Kasturba, was dying of pneumonia, British doctors recommended penicillin to save her life. Gandhi refused, saying God would save her if he wanted to. Spoiler alert, God didn't. Yet, when Gandhi himself fell ill with malaria, he was quick to accept quinine treatment. Talk about do as I say, not as I do. And let's not forget his time in South Africa. While fighting for Indian rights, Gandhi expressed some pretty racist views towards black Africans. He referred to them as savages and Kafirs, a term so offensive it's now illegal to use in South Africa. Not exactly the universal love we associate with Gandhi. Now, let's hop across the pond to jolly old England and talk about the man who guided Britain through its darkest hour, Winston Churchill. Churchill is often portrayed as the bulldog spirit of Britain, the man who stood up to Hitler when all seemed lost. But here's the thing. While he was fighting fascism abroad, he was making some pretty questionable decisions at home. Take the Bengal famine of 1943. While millions of Indians were starving, Churchill diverted food supplies to already well-supplied British soldiers and paid countries like Greece and Yugoslavia to build up food stocks. When officials begged Churchill to send food to India, he allegedly asked, "Why hasn't Gandhi died yet?" But Churchill's callousness didn't stop there. During the Tony Pandy riots in Wales in 1910, he sent troops to violently suppress the miners who were striking for better conditions. And let's not forget the bombing of Dresden in 1945, which killed thousands of civilians and was seen by many as unnecessary so late in the war. Speaking of war, let's talk about a man whose name is practically synonymous with genius, Albert Einstein. Now, we all know Einstein for E=mc², his wild hair, and that tongue-out photo. But his personal life? It was messier than his chalkboard full of equations. When Einstein's first marriage to Mileva Merrick was on the rocks, he gave her a list of conditions to continue their marriage. And boy, were they doozies. He demanded that she serve him 3 meals a day in his room, expect no intimacy from him, stop talking to him if he requested it, and leave his bedroom or study immediately without protest if he requested it. Talk about a relative theory of relationships, but it gets better or worse, depending on how you look at it. After divorcing Mileva, Einstein married his first cousin Elsa, and even then, he couldn't keep it in his pants. He had multiple affairs while married to Elsa, including a long-term relationship with his secretary Betty Newman. Seems like Einstein's love life was more about multiplication than relativity. Now, let's shine a light on the man who brought us out of the dark ages. Literally. I'm talking about Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb. Or was he? Edison was known as the Wizard of Menlo Park, but a more accurate title might be the Wizard of Taking Credit. You see, Edison had a habit of, shall we say, borrowing ideas from others. The light bulb? It was actually invented by a British scientist named Joseph Swan. Edison just improved it and marketed the heck out of it. But Edison's shady behavior didn't stop there. He hired a brilliant young inventor named Nikola Tesla, promising him $50,000 if he could improve Edison's DC generators. When Tesla succeeded, Edison laughed it off as a joke and offered him a $10 raise instead. Tesla quit, and thus began one of the greatest rivalries in scientific history. Edison was so threatened by Tesla's superior AC electricity that he launched a smear campaign against it. He even went so far as to publicly electrocute animals, including an elephant, to show how dangerous AC was. Talk about a shock and awe campaign. Now, let's take a magical journey to the wonderful world of Walt Disney. Uncle Walt may have created the happiest place on earth, but his personal views were anything but magical. Disney was a member of the Motion Picture Alliance for the Preservation of American Ideals, an anti-communist group that also pushed some pretty anti-Semitic rhetoric. Not exactly the kind of thing you'd expect from the creator of Mickey Mouse. But wait, there's more. Disney was vehemently anti-union when his animators went on strike in 1941 for better working conditions. Disney called them communist agitators and even testified against some of them before the House Un-American Activities Committee. Talk about a Mickey Mouse operation. Now, let's talk about a man who changed the face of music forever, John Lennon. Lennon preached love and peace, but his personal life hit some sour notes. He admitted to being physically abusive to women, including his first wife, Cynthia. In his own words, "I used to be cruel to my woman, and physically any woman. I was a hitter. I couldn't express myself, and I hit." His relationship with his first son, Julian, was also strained. Lennon once referred to Julian as an unplanned mistake and was largely absent from his life. It wasn't until his girlfriend May Pang encouraged him to reconnect with Julian in 1973 that Lennon made any effort to be a father to him. Speaking of complicated relationships, let's dive into the life of Dr. Seuss, the beloved children's author. Theodore Geisel, better known as Dr. Seuss, created timeless children's books, but his personal life was far from a fairy tale. While his wife Helen was seriously ill, Seuss had an affair with Audrey Diamond. When Helen discovered the affair, she committed suicide. Seuss married Audrey just months later. But that's not all, folks. During World War II, Seuss created racist political cartoons, particularly targeting Japanese Americans. He even supported the internment of Japanese Americans during the war. Not exactly the kind of thing you'd expect from the creator of the Lorax, who spoke for the trees. Now, let's turn our attention to a man who shaped the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King's impact on civil rights is undeniable, but even he had his flaws. FBI investigations suggested that King had extramarital affairs, a stark contrast to his public image as a moral leader. Moreover, parts of King's PhD dissertation were found to be plagiarized. While this doesn't negate his incredible work for civil rights, it does remind us that even our greatest heroes are human and fallible. Speaking of complicated legacies, let's talk about John F. Kennedy, America's charismatic 35th president. JFK's presidency is often romanticized, but his personal life was far from perfect. He had numerous extramarital affairs, including alleged relationships with Marilyn Monroe and other women linked to organized crime. These affairs weren't just personal indiscretions. They were seen as potential national security threats. Now, let's paint a picture of Pablo Picasso, the revolutionary artist whose personal life was as fragmented as his Cubist works. Picasso was known for his emotional and physical abuse of women. He once infamously said, "Women are machines for suffering." His relationships often ended in tragedy, with two of his former partners, Marie-Therese Walter and Jacqueline Roque, committing suicide after his death. Picasso's treatment of women wasn't just cruel. It was often reflected in his art. He frequently portrayed women as distorted, fragmented figures, perhaps mirroring his own fractured view of the opposite sex. From the canvas to the catwalk, let's talk about Coco Chanel, the fashion revolutionary with a dark wartime secret. Chanel's contributions to fashion are undeniable, but her actions during World War II cast a long shadow over her legacy. During the war, Chanel was a Nazi collaborator and spy. She used her connections to try to seize control of her company from its Jewish owners and harbored anti-Semitic views throughout her life. In 1943, Chanel was even involved in a Nazi mission codenamed Operation Modelhut, where she was supposed to use her connections to negotiate with Winston Churchill. Talk about fashion diplomacy gone wrong. Finally, let's boot up the story of Steve Jobs, the tech visionary with a reputation for being a difficult leader. Jobs revolutionized personal computing, but his personal life was full of bugs. When his high school girlfriend Kristen Brennan became pregnant, Jobs initially denied paternity of their daughter Lisa and refused to pay child support. It wasn't until a DNA test proved his paternity that he began to support them financially. In the workplace, Jobs was known for his volatile temper and harsh treatment of employees. He often took credit for others' ideas within Apple and was known to berate employees publicly. His management style was so intense that it earned the nickname management by character assassination. But here's the million-dollar question. Does knowing these flaws change how you see these icons? Remember, history isn't black and white. It's more like a Jackson Pollock painting. Messy, complicated, but fascinating to examine. So, what do you think? Are these figures still heroes? Or have they fallen from their pedestals? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into history's dirty laundry, don't forget to smash that like button, ring the notification bell, and subscribe for more mind-blowing videos.